How many of y'all remember going to this place as kids? There was no better day than getting the invitation from your mom or your dad and saying, hey, how about we go to ToysRus? That was like, it's right up there with like Pizza Day Friday at school, getting to spend the night with your best friend. I mean, it was up there. But there were certain levels of awesomeness when you got to go to this place. All right, let's talk about it. So I'll never forget, the moment the car was parked in the parking lot, I knew I had a very finite timeline with my mama's patience being in that store. So I was in a dead sprint. And mentally, I was so panicked that other kids were gonna take my toy. I was dead set on the mission. And I saw this all the time. You'd get into that big Jeffrey entryway and a lot of kids would just go into shock. They didn't know where to go, left, right. And I mean, they lost a lot of precious time. I mean, it was bad. But for me, I knew what I wanted. I wasn't messing around with the board games or anything like that. I was all about Ninja Turtles or action figures at the time. And I tell you what, I know y'all remember this. Y'all had to book it down that main wall where all the board games were, and then you'd have to hook it to the left in the middle of that store. A lot of times the Legos would pull your attention away from the main mission. And for me, it was all about Ninja Turtles or Transformers. So I didn't have no time for that. Because like I said, I was on the clock. And you knew if you got to this part of the store, the bike area where you knew your ass had no business being in, you had gone too far. So usually you had to backpedal if you hit this part of the store. But once you saw that logo from Mattel, you knew you were there. You knew you were there. And man, it was such a good time. But you know what was even better? You remember how I was telling you about levels of awesomeness? There was one thing that I will never forget in ToysRus. And some of y'all, I know y'all remember this now. The video game aisle. I remember we didn't come from a lot of money, but they had that whole like middle section. And they had all those tickets for the games from Super Nintendo and Sega. And I used to just stare at the kids looking at that aisle with their parents. And I used to just be green and envious. I'm like, man, that's just something, that's like first class. That's something special there. And I'll never forget my mama one day. She took me in to go get a Sega Genesis game, and she said, you can pick something out of there. And that stuck with me forever. And I'll never forget it. And I'll remember as clear as day. I think I took the stupidest game too. I took some dumb Roger Clemens baseball game. But man, to pull that ticket off and feel it with your hands and run down the aisle and show all them other damn kids, look at this, I got something. That to me, dude, it was the best feeling. And then you take that back to the checkout and they had that big booth and they pull your game out. Man, dude, it didn't get any better than that at ToysRus for me. How about you?